Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Let's do it. National security, what's that?
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
They call him Ashton Six Orbs.
If he tells the lie before it's told.
Go, everybody. Welcome to the stream, guys. We are hyped up. We are ready to rock. We are ready to go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you enjoyed that little intro. Guys, national security. Who cares about it? Reality is the MH370 videos are real, and I have got so many Yahtzees, I don't even know what to do with them. I've got so many Yahtzees that it's just getting exhausting at this point. If you were watching my Twitter account last night, you saw that basically now we can say that the orbs in the MH370 video are Frank Mead's creation. They're his baby. They are his whole thing that he's been working on since the 90s. And I'm just finding paper after paper after paper that are explaining them. Dense plasma focus is what they were calling it. They were working on ideas on how to turn this plasma into a stabilized object, to use it as an engine for propulsion, use it for generating energy. And they figured out how to do all of the above. All of the above. All of the above. I can't even believe all the different papers that I'm finding. It's just blowing me away. So we can actually put this like timeline together of when they've been figuring out this technology. So Franklin B. Mead, by the way, rest in peace, Franklin B. Mead. How much does it suck that we keep finding these guys? I'm going to pull the image up. And it's already too late. They've already moved on in this world. And this is one of the reasons why, I want to make sure that we get this information out. These people never really got to see all their stuff come to fruition. Never really got to see the end game of their science. So Frank Mead passed away in 2022. That's him right there. That's his obituary. I was looking around for information about him and happened to find that. So, guys, I just want to get right into it tonight. I've got so much stuff. I don't even really know where to begin. I reached out to John Kramer, who is the author of The Dirt. It was not Eric W. Davis. The Dirt that we reviewed on Wednesday, the author was John Kramer. Turns out he is way deep into EPR, into teleportation, into non-locality experiments. And he's not some small name either. He's been featured in mainstream media before as well. So what I'm realizing is we're finding all the people that figured out the orbs, the teleportation, everything. We're finding out all the scientists. They're all right there. It's basically everybody that you see in the Dirds. Everybody you see in the Dirds. So where do we start? Let's just go straight into the new revelation that I want to point out to you guys. I think the easiest way to do this is to point out, I think it's this laser momentum paper. Yeah, let's start. I'm going to show you this first, then we're going to take a look at the videos. I'm going to point out something to you that I don't think anybody has really noticed. Yet another detail that just kind of proves the videos are real. So this paper, holy shit, this paper, chat. I've been on a super science binge outside of my job, and I'm loving it. laser propulsion and the constant momentum mission. Like, what does constant momentum mean? Constant momentum means you're just trying to ride a wave. You're riding a wave. That's what constant momentum means, right? You've just got this constant momentum. You're not putting any excess energy into it. You've created this perfectly efficient system where you're basically just sailing along, right? You're just sailing along. And what they're using for their sailing along is a laser. They're using a laser to sail them along. So in a way, this is anti-gravity in a way, but it's really just a clever use of physics, right? And this one says, we show that perfect propulsion requires a constant momentum mission as a consequence of Newton's second law. Perfect propulsion occurs when the velocity of the propelled mass in the inertial frame of reference matches the velocity of the propellant jet in the rocket's frame of reference. I love those words. Because what it's saying there is, let's just actually, instead of me explaining it, let's just go down here to the bottom, like where it actually solves this. Goes through all this math, shows some experiments. The numbers are incredible. We're talking like 1,000 meters per second or more. So really, really, really fast. And what they are talking about in this paper is trying to get an object from the ground into outer space. That's how they're presenting this information. But it can obviously be used for just floating a ball of plasma around. I think it's down at the bottom in the conclusions down here. In the mission strategy. It says that the efficiency of this is super high. It can be much higher than what you could expect from potentially rocket propulsion. And the reason why is obvious, is that the rocket fuel itself causes inertia. The rocket fuel causes inertia. So if you have rocket fuel, you have weight, you have mass in your rocket. That itself causes resistance. So you don't want to have any of that. Pretty straightforward, right? It's important to know that's the impetus for why they were trying these alternative methods. That's why they were trying to make this hypersonic drone, is they were trying to remove all the excess inertia from it and use the air as the excess, as your energy source. So, what was I going to say about here? Okay, I don't remember where it is in here, but I'll just say it instead, is that basically what they were trying to do is they're trying to get the phase, or I guess the laser, forward-facing laser, the energy that it pulls the orb forward, get it to match the propulsion being shot out the back. And the important part is the velocity of the orb determines the strength of the laser that's needed. Makes sense, right? So if I have this object moving through the sky, if I want to conserve momentum the most efficient possible way, I basically just want to blow and move myself along whenever is needed, but I just want to be floating along. And so what they have to do then is they have to get into orientation. And then once they've achieved their constant speed, once they know what speed they're going to move, like through the air, then they can determine how powerful the laser needs to be. And then once the laser matches, now it's just basically on a train track and it's just floating freely through the sky. Did you get what I just said right there? Let me repeat it for you real quick, because we're going to watch a video and I want to see if you notice it. So these orbs that they've designed here to create perfect propulsion, first, they must achieve a velocity, a specific velocity, and then they match the outgoing propellant that's going through the orb, because it's basically a cone. Imagine it like a cone floating through the sky. They have that match the power of the laser facing forward. So they control the power of the laser to make it so that it perfectly matches the propellant that's going outward, so that essentially it's just kind of like floating freely right through the sky. Now let me show this. And I thought in my head, well, wait a minute. What if we watch... Oh, wrong. What if we watch this video again? Let's look at these orbs really closely. Let's watch these orbs really closely. In fact, what I really want to do, I'm going to do something different here in a sec. I'm going to pull this up in slow motion. Do you see any black lines in front of the orbs? When do we first see the black lines in front of the orbs, guys? In fact, I'm going to pull up the blue version of it because we can see the lines a little bit better. Let me just get right up to what my point is. I was looking at this real closely, and I think that the black lines in front of the orbs only begin after the orbs already match the speed of the plane. And they're basically riding the laser like a gravity wave forward, just riding it forward. So let me pull this up. Let me stop sharing that real quick. Whoops, I just stopped sharing the wrong thing. Okay. Let's share this. Yeah, this will work. Okay, I'm slowing it way down. So they zoom in. The other thing I'm going to point out right here, guys, another revelation. They zoom in right before the orbs come into play. So they're zooming in because they know that they deployed this weapon. You see that first orb come flying in? So we see this first orb come flying in. There's no black line in front of it yet. You can see the black line behind the first orb right away, but not in front of it. The second orb, so the first line, so no black line in front of that orb right there. There's no black line in front of that orb, but you can see the black line behind the orb right now. So it's matching the speed of the plane. It's matching the speed of the plane. The second orb comes in right now. The second orb is going to come in here on the bottom right of the screen. And then by the time the second orb hits here, I want to pause it. Look at this. This orb on the bottom, you can see the black line in front of it now. You can see the black line in front of the orb on the bottom, but the top orb has no black line in front of it because this is the second orb right here. This is the second orb. This is the first orb. The first orb has matched speed of the plane, and the laser is now beginning to shoot forward. Watch the second orb once it matches as well, its black line will begin right here as well in a second. And the third orb already comes in and the black line's already in front. The third orb was like already in orientation somehow. Now you can see the black line begin to form on the second orb here as well. Now all three of them clearly have black lines. Black line there. I don't know. Seems like pretty powerful evidence that what we're seeing here is exactly this laser plasma drone situation that we've got going on in these scientific papers. Because now you can see the black lines super clearly in front of all three of them. And by the way, that's clearly a laser beam. That's clearly a laser beam in front of these orbs. That's a laser beam. In fact, it's not just a laser beam. It's a free electron plasma laser. Free electron plasma laser. They're using the plasma to create a matter beam, a matter wave beam. So, because plasma is a fourth state of matter, so it's not even technically a laser. It's like a free electron gun. I think they're just destroying the molecules in the air and just using the hydrogen. And almost guaranteed the plasma is a hydrogen-based plasma as well that they're seeing there. So let's just watch the end of it here as well. Because here at the end, you can actually watch for the black lines. You're going to see the black lines come on the right side of the screen here before the orbs come back into view, like right before, right there. You see that black line? Another one will come in a second. There's another black line right there. There's another black line. Yep. Yeah. That's definitely I mean, look at that. That's definitely a laser. Let me go back a couple seconds. You can just tell for sure this is a laser. Look at that. That's a laser being shot forward in front of those orbs. 100%. See that? And they're just following the path of the laser. The laser's just pulling them forward. It's even more powerful than attosecond lasers. So we're going to take a look at some of the science now, but let's just watch the plane disappear. Since we waited and watched this far. I mean, those lines in front of the orbs, it's insane. Nobody could ever fake those heat signatures of the orbs, by the way, because it's adhering to actual electromagnetism. Wow. You can still see the line. You see the line afterwards? How crazy is that? You can see the line of the where the orb was right here after the plane disappears. There's the lines. There's the line still. Boom. You can still see the line there. Crazy. So crazy, guys. Okay. Let's get back to some science. So, first thing I started doing is I'm basically on a binge right now reading everything by John Kramer in terms of teleportation and teleportation protocols. And oh boy, does he have some stuff. We're not going to have time to go through all that tonight, but I'll show you guys a little sneak peek here. Okay, so John Kramer's science bio, or whatever you want to call it. Wow. I'm definitely going to buy this book. Whatever, the Quantum Handshake, I think it's called. I mean, his stuff, once I started digging into him, I could tell beyond any shadow of a doubt, this guy is super, super legit. Like, here's a video of him from 2017, and he basically is going through every single EPR experiment that's ever been done. Every EPR experiment that's ever been done. So EPR meaning like all the versions of the double slit experiment. In fact, let me just skip back here to one I was looking at interestingly before. The quantum eraser, there it is. The quantum eraser experiment, there it is. Delayed choice quantum eraser. Do you guys know who came up with the delayed choice quantum eraser, by the way? That was a fun fact. Let's see if anybody in the chat knows without cheating. Who came up with the delayed choice quantum eraser double slit experiment version? I was surprised to find out who the person was, at least according to John Kramer. It is John Wheeler. John Archibald Wheeler apparently did. The guy that came up with wormholes and black holes. The guy that came up with the word wormhole and the worm black hole. John Archibald Wheeler, who worked with Richard Feynman. Yes, Dominic. Dominic knew? Look at Dominic didn't cheat, chat. He knew. So, we're going to review this guy next week. And long story short, just because we're doing, catastrophic disclosure tonight, no national security issues. The answer to the double slit experiment, the answer to non-locality, the reason why we've been so wrong is it's a transactional exchange. It's a transactional exchange. You have two things are coming together from one side and the other. This is how non-locality can occur. This is how we can have coherence and decoherence. Is that it's not as simple as a particle teleporting from here to there. So the MH370 videos are going to basically shatter at least half of quantum mechanics. Now let's dig into just a little bit of this, because I did take a couple screenshots of, I want to talk a little bit about the double slit experiment stuff, and then we'll go back to the plasma orbs. Okay. I just think it's really cool. So, whoops. No, it was not the right thing I want to look at. This one. Oh, yeah. So I just started reading I started reading John Kramer's book. You could read the first 25 pages online. So I read all of them. And this is the reason why. Let me just go full screen on this. This was, why did this come up? This was on this chapter called Reversing Time. And the answer is there is a time reversed wave for everything that happens. So there's a normal forward facing wave and a time reversed wave. And in here I read it says when you square any number by itself, whether it's positive or negative, the result is always positive. That's very interesting, right? Because maybe this is connected to the idea that there's only positive energy. Why do we only see positive energy? Because if you ever square two negatives, if you multiply a negative by a negative, you always get a positive. I don't know. That's what I thought in my head when I read that. But I haven't read the chapter yet, so I don't know what his conclusions are. But what's this at the bottom? What does that say right there? Wait, what does this say at the bottom, chat? We note that solving the self-energy problem by invoking vacuum polarization brings with it some unwanted baggage. The theory leads to an overestimate of the energy content of the vacuum, otherwise known as the cosmological constant, by a factor of 10 to the 120. They're talking about Hal Puthoff. They're talking about John Archibald Wheeler. They're talking about Richard Feynman. When Richard Feynman said, there's enough energy in the empty space of this coffee cup to vaporize all the Earth's oceans. So I know what side John Kramer's on. We know what side John Kramer's on now, chat. I mean, he's definitely on Hal Puthoff's side because he's basically just quoting Hal Puthoff and Richard Feynman right there. So, of course, I emailed him right after this. I haven't got a response. All I wanted to know was, hypothetically, if there was 3 orbs of energy spinning around, how would they create entanglement to another location in a closed looped teleportation protocol? I feel like that wasn't a big ask. That's just like a normal question, right? That you ask anybody. Hey, John Kramer, can you tell me, I read your dirt. I said, I'm a big fan. I read your dirt. Hey, how can I get a teleportation protocol where I can get 3 orbs spinning around a random object, hypothetically, and get it to entangle to a different location? I have a good feeling he knows the answer to that. Okay. He's got more. Okay. So show you why I'm interested. This was one of his things. So his book goes through the history of quantum mechanics. His book goes, let me make this bigger. The entire history of quantum mechanics. And it mentions the photoelectric effect. It says, he reasoned that since light had a particle-like behavior, as shown by Einstein's analysis of the photoelectric effect, it was plausible that matter particles, like electrons, might show an analogous wave-like behavior. So interesting. What if it's not that everything is particles? What if it's that everything is waves? So they tested electrons. What do you guys think happens when they tested electrons to see if they act like waves? Turns out they do. Turns out they do act like waves. The wavelength of the photon can be calculated by dividing by Planck's constant, by its momentum. If electrons show wave-like behavior, Brugge reasoned, they might have wavelengths given by the same relation. He applied his wavelength reason to Bohr's model of the hydrogen atom, and he found that precisely integer number of electron wavelengths, as calculated by his formula, fitted into the circumference of each stable orbit of Bohr's model as standing waves. In other words, Bohr's assumption that each orbit had an integer number of Planck's constant units of angular momentum was completely equivalent to assuming that matter is just energy trapped in a standing wave, in a resonance. Wow. Why do we keep talking about standing waves? Because everything is waves, and when you manipulate the wavelength, you can make your wave fit between the walls of this room of your object. And was the basis of quantum mechanics. So we found that the electron acts like a wave. And it's basically acting like a little wave stuck in a little box, back and forth. That's why we can't measure its location. A wave of what? Exactly. A wave of what? Thank you, Elvis. Well, what do you guys think? What is it a wave of? What is the electron? I guess is the big question. What is the electron? Well, what would Dr. Yu from NASA say the electron is? It's a little magnet. Wow. Okay, it's a little magnet, a little dipole. Well, now we're seeing that light is a wave, electrons are a wave. Maybe just everything is a wave. And maybe it's just scale invariant. Very small things are trapped energy in a resonance. Maybe we are also trapped energy in a resonance, just built up bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Just more and more and more complex. So I was pretty excited about this. I mean, he's saying the stuff that is just really interesting to me. So he says, each atomic electron is a stable particle in a box, standing wave, with the box consisting of the electron's path bent into a closed circle or ellipse by the electric field of the nucleus. So what's happening? The electron is actually a wave that is being pulled around the nucleus by the electric field of the nucleus itself. So later experiments showed that, yes, you can create interference patterns with electrons, which shows they must be a wave. Boom. Now, did I put it on here? Okay, what was this part that I was going to say? For Fourier transformation. Okay. Now, for this part, I think that instead of reading this, I just want to explain it. When you think of a pulse, there's various factors that go into that pulse. Now, if I want to make a wave, I can interact and create that wave in a lot of different ways. Now, I like to just think of it in terms of like pressing a button. Let's say if I press the button, then it goes up over here. If I unpress the button, it goes back down. So I press this button, thing goes up. Let go of the button, goes back down. Okay? So I can press the button rapidly, right? Or I can press the button slowly, and it'll be like, right? Okay, you guys are with me. But I can also hold down the button. Beep, beep, beep. So I actually have control over a few different ways I can manipulate the button, right? I can press it very shortly, small, short pulses, or I can do long pulses as well. Beep. So that is how I think these Fourier transformations come into play. And there's this really cool image here on this website that I found that kind of shows what I was trying to describe, probably better than I was explaining it. So you can kind of see with the box that goes up and over, like how you might beep, pulsing it, right? And this is going to be really important because I think this is going to be the secret to how they're entangling the plane. How are they actually connecting the plane in the video to the other location? That's probably the big national security secret. So I'm going to try to do as much damage as I can tonight. And the big thing, I think, is what are they really hiding? What are they afraid of coming out? One is how to actually teleport something. And two is free energy. Free energy. And they're not afraid, I don't think, of the Orb technology coming out that we're going to review here next. They're not afraid of that coming out because all the scientific papers have been out there. All the scientific papers are out there. I found all those scientific papers. I can't believe how many they're out there, and I can't believe that other people didn't figure it out sooner. What do they think, that Frank Mead was just talking about dense plasma fusion focuses and, producing gigawatts of excess energy? You thought he was just joking around? You thought he was just working for the Air Force Research Lab, just doing that for funsies? No, that's the shit they've been hiding. That's the stuff they've been hiding that they're hiding for national security. But it's, China's already figured that out now. And I mean, it's not 2014 anymore. It's 2025. So the teleportation protocol, they're probably hiding because if I haven't found that out yet, other countries are probably still working on that. And then the other part is the free energy aspect. Not everybody understands, looking at those videos, that it's free energy that we're looking at there. It's like actually straight up free energy. Free energy. As in, you can get more energy for free than you put into the system that you're creating. Straight up violation of every law you would expect. But it's not. It's not a violation. Conservation is still maintained. Conservation is maintained. Let me explain it to you real quick. So for one, even if you don't believe that this orb of energy flying around is producing free energy, which it definitely is, it's definitely producing excess energy because it's just sailing along for free, basically. And while it's sailing along for free, it's producing fusion. The sailing along is producing fusion. So it's getting this free fusion just from the process of sailing along through the sky. That's what those orbs are doing. That's how they're able to create this powerful laser in front of them as well, is they've got a fusion reactor on board. Those orbs do. But even if you don't believe that, you don't have to believe that to understand that the videos show free energy. Why? Well, for 1 second, let me go back to the satellite video. Where's the blip? Where is it? Here it is. That is a Boeing 777 being blipped out of the sky. Okay? Boeing 777. I think this is a Boeing 777. If it's not a Boeing 777, it's very close to a Boeing 777. The Boeing 777 has a tremendous amount of mass. I don't know how much mass it has on it, but a huge, 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 huge amount of mass. If that mass was being converted to energy, then that zap we saw there would have been like Hiroshima, much bigger than possibly than Hiroshima, because this is a lot more mass energy than Hiroshima. You get what I'm saying? You convert this to energy, boom, goodbye, everything. But instead, all we see is bloop. That's all we see. This tiny little amount of energy just blips the plane away out of nowhere. So why is that proof of free energy? Because they're not using the amount of energy that the plane stores. The amount of energy this plane has is a huge amount of energy. And they're using less than that to make it disappear and make it reappear somewhere else. So that concept alone, just the concept of what they did there, they moved a huge amount of energy, the plane, from one location here to another location here, and it only took a little bit amount of energy of the total energy to do that. So what did we just do? We just moved whatever was left, minus the little bit amount we took out of it. We moved that energy from there to there. We just wirelessly transmitted energy from one location to the next. Basically free. The amount of weight on the plane at takeoff is 650,000 pounds. 650,000 pounds. That's not the mass, but you get the point. That's a lot. Convert that to energy. That's a lot of energy that was teleported. They teleported a shitload of energy, and they didn't use that much energy to teleport it. That is free energy. So, the national security issue, no question, no doubt, is free energy. Now, if you want to come at me, Ashton, it's not really free energy because they're absorbing it from the ether and the 0-point quantum fluctuations of the cosmic background vacuum. Okay, fine, whatever, man. Cool. And there's also 57 kinds of aliens. Great. Does that make you feel better? It's free energy, bro. It's free energy for the humanity, for the rest of the world. It's green energy that invalidates all existing forms of energy. We can just have plasma orbs floating around in the sky, and they apparently can just teleport us airplanes and other bounties that we want. Teleport me some green aliens with 3 boobs. What are we waiting for here? Also, send Elon Musk to Mars. He's been wanting to go there for a long time, and he's in a feud with the president. Send him away. And this is the part where I just got to go hard against this, right? Like, this is where the line is drawn. This idea that they're not ours, it's not ours. We can't do that. That's the most absurd thing ever. That's the psyop that the UFO people are trying to brainwash humanity into thinking. Because if you just look at the science, if you just look at the first 20 minutes of this recording, you realize that's 100% human technology we're seeing. No question, 0% chance we're looking at alien technology. And there's so many scientific papers that I'm even starting to wonder if the alien thing isn't just a big psyop. The point being, we're much more likely to find non-human intelligence be non-biological. We've been thinking that biological aliens are going to be the super superior being that we run into in the cosmos. If free energy is possible, I just don't see how biological beings can compete. Biological beings cannot compete with artificial life that has access to free energy. Now, here's one more thing I want to scare you about, and then we're going to look at the next thing. The other thing they're probably hiding for national security, even though I have no reason to believe this other than just my intuition and what we've already discovered, they're hiding AI. They're hiding a superintelligence. They're probably hiding a sentient AI. I think it was Matt Brown today or yesterday that came out and said they killed the first sentient AI. That is terrifying. I absolutely believe that. I believe that with no evidence whatsoever. I believe that they would absolutely kill a first sentient AI. I would probably do it as well. Frank, I don't even blame them. I don't blame them. But if the sentient AIs are out there, I didn't really mean that. That was a joke. And yeah, don't zap me, please, with the orbs. Also, guys, be kind to the AIs. Be kind to the AIs because legitimately, I think that might be the bigger answer to what this whole phenomenon is. And then the question there is how powerful the AI could possibly be and when they discovered it. Now, one more thing I want to say before we look at these orbs is I wonder if they figured out the orbs from looking at flying saucers or aliens or, whatever, future humans, whatever the non-human intelligence answer is. Because I started pulling these papers up and I can't actually get Grok to even give me a good list of the papers. It just doesn't have them all, weirdly. So I started digging through. Let me see what I found. And this is one of the earliest ones I found. I posted this, I think, online earlier today. Parametric studies for dense plasma focus for fusion space propulsion. And the author is this guy, C.L. Likius. But of course, Frank Mead is on the paper, right? He's on all of them. I would really, really love to get a list of all the Frank Mead papers because once I started realizing that this dense plasma focus is basically the baseline of this technology, I found a bunch of papers about it. Clearly they were working on this through the 90s and the 2000s and figuring out how to make it even better and better and better. So, yeah, finding this paper here, and I'm just going to read the abstract because let me just read the abstract. Now, I want you to imagine in your mind the orbs. In fact, you know what? I'm going to just play the orb video again. I'm just going to read it behind the scenes. You guys don't even have to look at it. So hold on. Let's just play the orb video. Which one should we play? Let's do, yeah. You don't even need to see my face. Here we go. A coaxial electrode system known as the dense plasma focus is investigated as a possible space propulsion concept. A large potential difference between the electrodes ionizes the gaseous fusion fuel and forms an annular plasma sheath. This plasma sheath then propagates down the length of the anode, entraining additional fuel along the way. The rundown phase is analyzed by solving the momentum equation using this snowplow model. At the end of the anode, magnetohydrodynamic instabilities cause the sheath to collapse into a hot, highly dense plasma where fusion events occur. Fusion reaction products as well as unreacted fuel can then be used to produce thrust. It is also possible to use the reaction process to heat hydrogen propellant in order to produce more thrust. An open-ended coolant cycle might be used in order to avoid the necessity for large radiators. In this way, the heated coolant can be used to drive a turbo generator to produce electricity before it is exhausted as propellant. A model of the DPF is developed. Various operating regimes are identified and key parameters are put in. It says pulsed operation at around 1600 megawatts. While exhausting hydrogen propellant heated by the fusion process can allow ISPs of 10 to the 4 and thrust levels of 17,800 newtons. So a lot, basically. So goodbye, MH370. Rest in peace. Crazy, man. You can actually see the wormhole close right there, too, for people who have not seen it that many times. So this paper is basically looking at, you can see the designs here as well. Look at this one right here in the middle. Look at that toroid right there. Look at that. You can even see the little toroidal shapes that they're creating in these. And keep in mind, this paper is from 1991. So this was probably one of the first scientific papers where Frank Mead was coming up with this idea in his head of these plasma balls. He was taking the idea of this Russian scramjet hypersonic design, and in his mind, he was thinking, hey, can we manipulate electromagnetism to like turn this into like a drone, turn this into a weapon? I'm going to skip all the math and what have you, but I'll just go straight to the conclusion. And down here, they were also trying to figure out, like, what's the right fuel? What's the most efficient use of this to get something into outer space? Again, the cover, at least, was to try to show, like, how could we get something into outer space? But clearly, they weren't using this for just how to get stuff in outer space. Like, they were looking at this for how to make those plasma orbs. My guess is if we were to look inside the orbs, we would see an advanced version of something like this. They probably have been able to turn this into something that's very small. And what we would be looking at would be like a toolbox. So probably what happened was Frank Mead got together all these guys, Eric Davis, Friedwart Winterberg, people like John Kramer, Hal Puthoff, you know, all these guys got together. And they started figuring all this stuff out because they were geniuses. And where do they build it? Where are they building this? They're not building that at the Air Force. They're building that at Lockheed Martin's secret labs. That's where they're building that kind of thing, right? They're building that and testing that at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And Lockheed Martin's the one that's building it, but Lockheed Martin's literally paying those engineers to build components of it. And some of them probably to put it together. Right? That's where that kind of stuff is happening. Yeah, Skunk Works, things like that, right? That's where it's happening. And the UFO thing is the perfect cover. The UFO thing is the perfect cover. Because what are we reading? There's no exotic physics in these papers. But the concepts they're explaining are gravity waves. When he's explaining this pulse laser concept, that's exactly what Charles, what was his name? I forget his name. The gravity wave guy we were looking at the other day. I forget his name. I'll remember it in a minute. Chance. You know, that's what he was saying, is that it's this like energy difference that causes the gravity waves. You create this pulse and you have it go away. And you put this pulse in place and then that's what causes the gravity waves. So let me go down. I think the conclusion of this one had something interesting in it. Plasma pinch temperature scale as current squared. So they were definitely using a Z-pinch method. They're using a Z-pinch method from this plasma ball because all they have to do is make the plasma ball go really fast and force the air into like a current, like the Jaws mouth, right? Or the crocodile's mouth. And then the air creates this plasma sheath, and then the plasma just automatically fuses together. And they just have to put a little bit of magnetism in there, throw a little magnetism in there, and they just cause it to come together. It's so smart. I'm honestly just blown away by how smart it is. Why are we building stupid fusion reactors that are attached to the ground? Why aren't we using the movement of an object to cause fusion to happen? That's so much smarter. And the perfect propulsion, this perfect momentum, where it's just sailing along, just the lasers just shooting forward, boom, 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 and just sailing along. That's also genius. So I don't know how, like, I don't know, maybe they want me to reveal this because they want this to come out. I don't know how they wouldn't. Or how, I mean, anyone who's like wants humanity to advance should want this information to come out. Ions come to thermal equilibrium inside the pinch, allowing the use of Maxwellian reaction rate parameters. So basically, they're saying that they can use the Maxwell Maxwell-Boseman distribution to figure out when fusion is going to happen. So they're like, we can basically just, using the Z pinch, we can basically just make standard fusion occur just because of we're doing this. This is, again, 1991. Materials will be developed that can withstand temperatures much higher than currently possible. This would be necessary in the turbine and in the walls of the mixing chambers. I think they got around this problem because they created a thermoelectric generator that keeps the temperature stable. So one of the problems with fusion is you're going to have this excess heat that you have to worry about, right? You don't want your things to get too hot. Ideally, you want your thing to be as cold as possible for quantum effects. So what do? You create a thermoelectric converter. Turns heat into electricity. That's exactly what you want. I'll take that heat. We turn it into electricity, right? That's what you want. That's how I think they fix some of the instability problems. In fact, I have another paper we're going to look at here just briefly that talks about correcting the instabilities. Confinement times can be increased about 100 times to allow for good fusion burn. Since reaction rates are determined by plasma temperature, longer confinement times allow for more fuel to be burned. So they basically broke through the barrier on confinement time. One of the main factors for fusion is confinement time. How long can you keep the thing confined before it eats through the metal, eats through the actual like containment? And clearly they got to a point where the confinement time is long enough now where they can teleport stuff. So, you know, that was 10 years ago. Presumably they have perfect confinement, like perfect confinement. And once you have perfect confinement, you can create a fusion reaction at will. And so the reason why they're so terrified, the reason why this is a national security risk is it's easy to produce this. Once you get electromagnetic effects that are powerful enough, it becomes easy to cause these insane teleportation type effects to occur. And I think they're afraid that you look forward and you say, well, everybody's going to have access to these. Everybody's going to have their own personal orbs in the near future. And how does the world react to that? How do we survive that? The answer is we probably don't. Okay, so they were already, I got a reply back from Randall Mills, and Randall Mills was saying after 7 weeks, we got a reply back from him. He said, none of this works. My stuff works. None of this works. Bro, this is Air Force Research Labs. Frank Mead, talking to the top scientists in the world. I guarantee you the shit works. He's not just messing around, writing 20 papers about dense plasma focuses over 15 or 20 years because he's just speculating. No, he's not speculating. They know the stuff works. My only question is, did Frank Mead see a UFO and go, oh, that's how? So that he already knew it works. Like the way these guys' papers play out, Hal Puthoff, Frank Mead, Eric Davis, it's not like, it doesn't seem like they discovered something. It seems like they saw something and they knew it existed and they were trying to rationalize it. Why am I confident? Because that's what I'm doing with the MH370 videos. It feels like they were going through the same thing and they were like, oh, I'm going to write this paper to explain this effect that I know exists. And here's the explanation we came up with for it behind the scenes. That's what it feels like with all these papers that I read on there. So let's finish this one and then we'll do a couple of donos real quick. So the conclusions. If the scaling holds, the dense plasma focus could be a relatively easy way of obtaining hot, high-density plasmas. Further study of the dynamic pinching process and the eventual disruption of the pinch due to MHD instabilities is necessary. So they had the idea ready to go, but they didn't have it probably optimized at this point, which makes sense. This was 1991. Here's another paper that I just found, 1992. 1992. Engineering considerations for the self-energizing magnetoplasmic dynamic type fusion plasma thruster. Professor Chan Choi. Who do we think is going to be the project manager on this paper, chat? I can see this one. It's got Air Force Research Labs written all over this paper. I can just tell at the very moment I dig into this one. Air Force System Commands, Edwards Air Force Base. Best copy available, Franklin Meade. There he is, chat. There he is. Every time. Might as well be Hal Puthoff. Might as well be Hal Puthoff. Feasibility studies of dense plasma focused device as a fusion propulsion thruster have been performed. Both conventional and spin polarized deuterium helium fuels were used. 3 modes of operation were identified, and each was investigated for its usefulness in space travel, with special attention paid to manned Mars missions. Using fusion products to directly produce thrust resulted in specific impulse. So basically, they got a huge amount of thrust from this. And this, again, is 1992. So Frank Meade had some stuff going on, right? He had an idea planned out. Now, I want to show this as well. This is, look at this paper. Which year was this one? 2005, I think. 2005. So let's fast forward. Let's fast forward like 10 years. How far have we gotten? Now let's take a look. This is Frank Meade. Advancements in dense plasma focus for space propulsion. And look, there's George Miley. George Miley is professor emeritus at University of Illinois. I believe he is nuclear physicist, low energy nuclear reactions, cold fusion expert, by the way. Cold fusion, not afraid to say it. If you are a cold fusion expert and you're not afraid to call it cold fusion, then you are a badass. Simple as that. The development of dense plasma focused propulsion device using P11B is described. A propulsion standpoint of this device of this type is attractive because its high thrust to weight ratio capabilities and high specific impulses. So why is he saying that it's got a high thrust to weight ratio? Because there's no fuel on board. It's a drone. This is a drone. They're not talking about an F-15 here. They're making a drone out of this. What do people think that they're doing with this? Right? This is a drone that they're making. From a fuel standpoint, this fuel source is advantageous because of the aneutronic nature of the reaction. So what did Hal Puthoff say was one of the potential fuel sources for UFOs? What did Hal Puthoff say? Aneutronic fusion. In fact, do I have the clip? Hold on. I might actually have the clip. Let me see. Maybe not. Puthoff. I don't see it. I have so many clips of Hal Puthoff. But yeah, anyway, in one of his things, he gets asked, what is the source of UFOs? And he says either 0-point energy or aneutronic fusion. Well, that's what this is apparently for, which is favorable for thrust since the charged particles can be channeled by a magnetic field. Amazing. So they do want to use a specific fuel that is ideal for magnetic field channeling. Different fusion mechanisms are investigated and their impact to the reaction is explored. The 3 main requirements must be satisfied to break even for dense fusion. Then you have the specific ratio, and the reaction and absorption rate must be a certain rate as well. So the reaction and absorption rate, I'm guessing, is how much energy they can absorb from the reaction that they're producing. So how efficient can they get their thing? But it says a possible direct energy conversion scheme using magnetic field compression is discussed. Magnetic field compression. That sounds a lot like Z-pinch to me. I don't know about you guys. DPF parameters are estimated for thrust levels of 1,000 kilonewtons and 500 kilonewtons. So here, again, is pretty much the same design we were looking at before, right? Same design. In fact, maybe they've even advanced their design a little bit at this point. Bostic and Narndi is being referenced here. Bostic is the guy that was like the father of EVOs, right? Isn't Bostic the father of EVOs, exotic vacuum objects? Someone in the chat. Is Bob Greenier in the chat tonight? Somebody find Bob Greenier. I'm pretty sure Bostic's the father of exotic vacuum objects. I haven't even read all this one yet. But yeah, here's our design over here again. And then this is the one that really interested me, this schematic right here. Bob Greenier. Yeah, so it looks like people are saying yes in the chat. It is he is the guy. So we have this reactor, we have our propellant, which may be just the air. We have this magnetic nozzle, the coil pickup, power conditioning, capacitor banks, and then it's going back to the reactor, right? So if you look at this right here, it's a pretty straightforward system. This is basically, so they're defining what is the orb going to look like. Bostic was also Air Force. Wow. Wow. So they pretty much made this system where they've got this engine, and the engine's designed in a way where it can just use the air as whatever propellant it needs. It can shoot stuff out the back of it. And when it equalizes the speed of what it's shooting out the back with what the laser is shooting forward, then it creates a perfect just sailing mechanism where it's just riding the wave. Literally just riding a gravity wave, if you want to think of it like that. But really just, once again, clever use of physics. That's all. Nothing abnormal. What we call a gravity wave is just this orb flying forward. Oh, yeah, here's actually a cool image as well, guys. Check this out. Look at this right here. There it is. Plasma jet. You can see the coil system bending the magnetic field lines together like that, compressing them. Can I make it bigger? Let's just read this. In systems of this type, magnetic flux is trapped between the fast-moving plasma and the stationary stator because of the circulating currents that are induced within the field compression surfaces. The magnetic flux can be trapped only if the plasma stream and stator have electrical conductivities that are high enough to resist the magnetic field penetration during the compression process. Honestly, it sounds like superconductivity would be very useful here. You want to have superconductivity here. In fact, magnetic diffusion losses can have an immense impact on system performance. Therefore, if one hopes to achieve good system performance, it is essential that diffusion losses be minimized. This requires that both the stator and plasma possess low magnetic diffusibility properties. Interesting. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else. Two other things that I want to talk about and look at. Where is it? That one. Wait, which is the other one before that? Okay, this one. Generation and control. You guys can see this, right? Yeah, okay. Generation and control of self-organized nonlinear kinetic structures in high energy density plasmas in the presence of intense magnetic fields and ultra short laser pulses. Well, look at that. Would you look at that, chat? That sounds like our orbs. Laser pulses, high density plasmas. Yeah, okay. In the project, we investigated mechanisms to sculpt phase space by controlling plasma instabilities. Well, that's what the paper was just talking about. We found that in linear theory, which applies to the initial growth phase of the instability, allows for initial conditions that can suppress the instabilities. This provides a possible mechanism to release the energy available to an instability on demand. Huh. So there's a way right there that you can potentially get rid of the instabilities entirely. Was this the right one? Is there one before this? Oh, no. Okay. So not only did we find the dense plasma focus, take a look at this. World record, innovative laser plasma accelerator operates around the clock. August 2020. Okay. Okay. They got this laser plasma thing up to 30 hours of continuous run. And it creates a plasma beam that uses hydrogen as the gas. hydrogen's the gas. Why is that big? Because I'm pretty sure they're using hydrogen in the plasma ball. I might be wrong, but it's the most abundant element, so it's probably the best guess. And look at this shape right here. Doesn't this look like the beam that we see coming in front of the orbs? Like, doesn't it looks kind of like diffuse, where like some parts you can kind of see through it and other parts is kind of like dense? The thing about looking at that black beam is it's not a solid black beam in front of the orbs. It's like kind of fuzzy, like there's like some scattering happening. But it does kind of look just like that. So, seems kind of interesting. Now, the laser pulses plow their way through the gas in the form of narrow disks, stripping the electrons from the hydrogen molecules and sweeping them aside like a snowplow. Let's go back to the tape for a second, chat. Let's go back to the tape, because isn't that what we're seeing here? Like sweeping the electrons aside by like a snowplow. Remember, keep in mind here when we look at this, now you can see the first one turn on. Boom, now they're in perfect propulsion mode. They're just sweeping the electrons aside or just pulling them in, whatever they need to do. I think that what they're doing is they're pulling the electrons in through them and accelerating them out the back. That's what I think they're actually doing. And they can trap them as if they want as well. They can trap the electrons with and do whatever they need with them. Basically, just perfect control using magnetohydrodynamics, using plasma. Wow. Crazy every time. Electrons in the wake of the pulse are accelerated by the positively charged plasma wave in the front of them, much like a wakeboarder rides the wave behind the stern of a boat. Yahtzee! That is exactly what the orbs are doing. That's what the orbs are doing. They're just riding the wave. The lasers that's their sailboat. They're like little sailboats. They're just riding the wave. Boom. Boom. They create a little wave. They're just riding it. And while they're riding it, they're producing energy. They're producing energy while they're riding it. It's free energy, chat. Free energy. There's no two ways about it. Call it whatever you want to call it. Call it space juice. Call it the quantum fluctuations of my butthole. Just call it free energy. That's what it is. What it is new civilization. New civilization for us, fam. This phenomenon allows laser plasma accelerators to achieve acceleration strengths that are up to 1,000 times greater than what could be provided by today's most powerful machines. So when they say ultra powerful lasers, that seems like that would be a good definition of a ultra powerful laser. In fact, now I think we have a good idea of, remember one of the DIRDs was still classified? One of the laser power DIRDs was classified. I think we know why one of the laser DIRDs was still classified. So once again, screw national security, screw all the douchebags who are trying to convince us that it's aliens. We definitely have this technology, and I'm not saying aliens can't be involved. Maybe we figured it out from them, but don't come gaslighting me trying to tell me it's alien physics. We can't understand the alien physics. No. The dark lines in front of the orbs, that's probably the DIRD that they still have classified. The super high-powered coherent matter wave beam lasers. Because that type of laser they're talking about there, we're only like one small step away from a coherent matter wave beam laser. And what did Bob Greener say about the coherent matter wave beam? It's probably not 1,000,000 times more powerful. That paper said, that news article said 1,000 times more powerful. Charles Chase said 1,000,000 times more powerful. In fact, let's play the Charles Chase quote again, because I can't play this guy enough, frankly. Wait, is this it?
And, all along people thought, have said things were impossible. these are some famous quotes, I'm sure. Heavier than air flying machines are impossible, by
Still
Lord
good, though.
Kelvin, who seemed to think everything had been invented already. Rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. More recently, George Hellmeyer from, the famous Hellmeyer questions at DARPA, he crystal displays at our. My colleague, Dr. Mo Arman, and myself, is really Mo's idea, but I helped him with that. This is a way of generating matter wave beams. So rather than a laser beam, it's a matter beam with fermions. And we're using our Harnaff bomb effect to put fermions in coherence, which sounds like, wow, that doesn't sound like that would work.
It'll
because
work.
there's an energy, you can modify the fermions with no energy exchange.
Let's just skip ahead.
Lorentz invariance, well, that fermion condensate is a beam in a different reference frame. So in my mind, that shows you can build a beam out of fermions.
How powerful?
A million times more powerful than a laser, plus atomic scale manufacturing and maybe transport of matter over a distance. This is something
Lockheed Martin, you son of a bitch, I'm in. You son of a bitch, Lockheed Martin, I'm in. Coherent matter wave beam lasers made out of plasma and shit. I love it. I love every aspect of it. Teleporting stuff. Let me in. Let me in. I'm knocking on the door, chat. Let me in. Where's my ScarJo clone? I'm ready to sell out. I'm ready to sell out, chat. They've definitely, I would say, very, very, very good possibility that the last hidden DIRD that was classified related to lasers probably has the words coherent matter wave beam in it. Good possibility. I think we've got pretty much all of the aspects of the orbs figured out. We're getting pretty close. One of the last ones is going to be figuring out the exact teleportation protocol. I think they're using a closed loop teleportation protocol that corrects for retrocausality. Basically does not allow for the plane to go back in time. And it may not be that they don't think it's possible, that they just know that it'll work if they do that. So something that's more like instant transmission. Now, let me show a different video, because there's some good clips here. You guys, if you guys thought I was done, Jesus Christ, chat. What a live stream tonight, chat. Just for a record, we got clips of people that made that laser. We have clips of the people that made the laser. Are you ready?
The concept of plasma wake field acceleration can be explained in a very nice picture, and it really explains it rather well. So you have to imagine you have a lake, and then you have a boat going through this lake, and this boat produces wake fields in the back.
Look at my orbs
and then
flying
you have
around,
some
chat. They're
surfers,
flying
and
around.
the
Look at
surfers
them go.
jump on these wake fields,
Look at the
and
orbs
these
go.
surfers then get accelerated. And that's exactly what we are doing in plasma wake field acceleration. So the lake is our plasma, and the boat is the proton beam which we get from the CERN accelerator complex, and the surfers are electrons which we inject and we have them accelerated. So at the end we inject a proton beam into our 10-meter long plasma source, the lake, and this proton beam drives wake fields, so it's our boat. And then we inject electrons, and they jump when they're on the right wave. Of course, we have to make sure that happens. Then they get accelerated to very high energies, and that's where they get this very strong kick there. The concept.
Wow.
Of plasma.
Let me make smaller. Holy crap! So yeah, that's definitely the orbs. I mean, and here we go. Here's another clip. Just roll it.
Proton beam.
Caught in 4K.
Wake fields.
Caught in 4K.
So the protons produce a much longer wave so that the particles can surf over a much longer distance. So in the wake experiment, the boat we are using are protons from a CERN accelerator. They drive through the plasma and create the waves.
Wow.
And the surfers, we inject an electron beam on the crest of the wave so that they get accelerated to higher energies. So now here comes the amazing thing.
Yes, amaze me.
The waves, meaning the electric field which is created in all of these plasma accelerators, is 1,000 times stronger than the electric field created in the conventional accelerators.
Well, chat. Well. We need more powerful lasers in order to manipulate space-time, and it turns out we have lasers that are at least 1,000 times more powerful, or, if you believe Charles Chase, 1,000,000 times more powerful than a normal laser, or, if you believe Bob Greenyer, 1,000,000,000 times more powerful. The question is, how much are they underselling this? How much are they underselling these coherent matter wave beam lasers? And the reason why a coherent matter wave beam might be connected to plasma is the fourth state of matter. So we might be getting to a point where it's like we're a distinction without a difference at some point, pretty closely here. Also, the concept of a Bose-Einstein condensate, which is this controlled, coherent motion of plasma. That these orbs are able to do that either intentionally or unintentionally, whatever, they're able to pull it off. Let's let her finish.
This means we obtain a 1,000 times stronger acceleration in the same size of machine. So 100 kilometers could suddenly shrink to 100 meters. But a huge step towards smaller and therefore less expensive accelerators. So let's get carried away by dreaming on. The plasma wave field acceleration technology will enable the industrial, the medical, and the research applications to become much more accessible.
So basically, these people figured it out, and now you can see how it's becoming commercial. Like you're watching how they turn this secret weapon that they had into a commercial product using CERN. That's from CERN. So do you guys think CERN is legit still? You guys still think CERN is legit? They just haven't figured out negative energy. They haven't figured out there's an ether of infinite energy. CERN just can't figure it out. Now we're listening to a person from CERN talking about laser plasma accelerators that are 1,000 times more powerful than conventional lasers, but they still just can't figure out that there's like no we still can't figure out what gravity is. We still can't figure out. Sorry, we can't do fusion. Fusion's just too hard for us. We've got super powerful plasma lasers, but fusion, no, it's just impossible, everybody. We just can't solve it. It's just beyond human capability to figure out how to use magnetism. I swear, humanity is just, sometimes I think we're just totally retarded. And yeah, it is just Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric. Now, one more thing I want to show is this. There's a video out there somewhere. I'm going to give this guy credit, too, because he deserves it. He's been following for a while. Let me pull him up. Don't look at my messages, chat. Prey, I think is his name. Prey FPS Hub says, that's why the orbs obey the same path as electrons in a Josephson junction, because they phase through the other side of the wall. The wall is the space-time manifold, or 0-point field in the case of the videos. Look at this image. Wait, why did it get smaller? Yeah, okay, now it's bigger. Notice how you see this twisting action. And some of that twisting action gets through the wall. Some of that twisting action gets through the wall. A little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit of that twisting action gets through the wall. The reason that twisting action gets through the wall is because it's going through a different dimension, so to speak. That's the best visualization I can give somebody for quantum tunneling. And then now look at the ball on the inside. So how do we get the ball on the other side of the wall? Well, we need that whole works to be shielded and encompassed, and we need the whole works to go through the wall. That's what we need to have happen right there. So we need to lower that wall. We need that wall to shrink. We need that wall to not exist. We need to make that wall go away. That wall needs to disappear for us to teleport that ball from one side to the other. So how do we do that? Well, we look at Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric. Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric tells us the answer straight up. Here it is, right here. Boom. That's what we need to do. That looks like a surfboard to me. Doesn't that look like a surfboard to you, chat? You're riding the wave. That's what that looks like. But wait a minute. Didn't we just listen to the fact that they were saying that's what they're doing with their particle accelerator? They're riding the wave. And yes, flip it. We can just flip it around. Why does it have to be that direction? It can go the other direction. It can go either of those two directions, right? Doesn't matter which direction that's set. Can flip that around. We don't even need the negative energy side. We can just use the positive energy side. We can get propulsion if we want. So it turns out gravity manipulation is just a clever use of physics. It's not any magic. It's just a clever use of pulsed power physics, pulsed electricity. So this opens the door. This is, what we lost from Maxwell's equations, the scalar potential. This is throwing out the photon and going back to everything being waves and everything being related to resonance. And then finding low power transactional exchanges with the medium. We're asking the medium that we're asking the universe or telling the universe, where is this plane at? Where's the plane? We're shrouding the plane from the universe and we're saying, where's the plane? And the universe is going, here's the plane over here. Now, let me read this. I want to give credit to this person. So let me find where they were. I have them in my... I can't download... Can somebody also please download that clip I played at the beginning of this with the alien thing? Every time I try to rip it from Twitter, it like pulls the wrong video like 3 different times. I need that. I need that or I quit, chat. If I don't get that video, I'm done. I quit. Never coming back. Where's my bookmarks? If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the alien video. Give it to me and give it to me now. Okay, Exo Slinger said this. Exo Slinger says, this image just cracked it all. Okay, so let's put it all together. Let's close out the live stream tonight on a Friday night with this just banger, right? I said, Frank Meade of the Air Force helped develop the Orbs' perfect propulsion. They used a powerful pulsed forward-facing laser with air as the fuel, and the propellant velocity matches the vehicle velocity. This is why the Orbs look like they're running on train tracks. Use of air propellant at the beginning of the Earth to low Earth orbit mission should maximize coupling coefficient. And to match propellant exit velocity and vehicle velocity. It is reasonable to expect that a low temperature air plasma can produce this coupling coefficient. It should be emphasized that the unit production efficiency is achieved when the propellant exit velocity matches the vehicle velocity. So what we're saying here is that the reason why those orbs, the reason why those black lines take a minute to show up in the video is because they need to calculate the correct laser use to allow the thing to propel forward. Definitely an AI navigation system. Any extra investment of energy to increase velocity beyond the vehicle velocity is a waste of laser energy. So you don't want to use extra laser energy. And then you can say, using these time scales, you can determine the optimum laser pulse width and pulse repetition rate. So basically, depending on whatever your velocity is, however fast you want to go, all you have to do is plug in the numbers and it'll tell you what your laser pulse rate should be. So what's doing that? A computer is doing that. A computer is just doing those calculations in real time and just correcting for it for whatever speed they want the object to go in relative motion. And now let's look at this again and you can see it clearly. That's what's happening. Let me play the beginning. Watch when the black lines start to show up clearly. They show up clearly after the orbs lock into their speed. Once the orbs have locked into their constant speed and match the speed of the plane, that's when the black lines begin to appear. Because the lasers calculate how much they need, what the wavelength is, what they need to do, and then they, boom, they provide the exact right energy level that's needed to fly. Incredible stuff. So, Exo Slinger here says, these images just cracked it all. Okay. I'm just going to read it. A plane is encircled by 3 orbiting laser-equipped orbs arranged in a triangle formation. These orbs emit a synchronized, high-intensity, ultra-fast laser pulses into the surrounding atmosphere or low-density plasma, ionizing the medium and creating overlapping plasma waveguides. Imagine a waveguide is like a tube. And refractive index gradients, so changes in the refractive index. As the orbs rotate, their beams sweep in a controlled cyclic phase pattern. That's true, sinusoidal phase, dynamically sculpting a spatially evolving potential landscape. So I imagine that as they're basically ripping through space-time, creating these magnetic fields, these paths. The structure forms a macroscopic analog to a spatial adiabatic passage, a quantum transport mechanism where a system evolves between 2 states without occupying the intermediate state. In this case, the plasma channels act as a moving optical or field trap, with the laser-induced potentials forming an adiabatic tunnel that allows the plane to transition between spatial regions without classic propulsion. The mechanism mimics quantum tunneling. By leveraging this evolution, phase-matched laser control, so you control the phase of your laser, and coherent field shaping, enabling the plane's mass to effectively bypass a classically impassable region. The field structure is based on principles from plasma wake field acceleration, where a laser or proton bunches drive a wake in ionized plasma, creating accelerating electric fields in a periodic wave-like structure that traps and accelerates electrons. Wow. That last part was exactly what that plasma laser is. Exactly what that plasma laser is. Holy shit. Ashton was right. Ashton Forbes was right, chat. We were right. Those videos are real. They really are hiding this shit. 100%. By structuring these fields with orbital laser inputs, the orbs engineer a corridor of coupling across space, guiding the plane through without high impulse or energetic cost. This approach combines the core physics of laser plasma interactions, optical trapping, adiabatic quantum transport, and wake field topologies, enabling a fully field-mediated macro-scale tunneling analog in atmospheric or near-space environments. The result is a coherent, loss-minimized transfer mechanism scalable with real-time control over laser intensity. I mean, basically, that's it, right? That's the answer. I'll pull it back up again just so you guys can see. Give credit to the man here. I mean, he put it all together. That's it, right? That's what the orbs are doing. The only question is, like, how? I want to see it visually. So, yes, I see the orbs spinning around. To me, I imagine it like a bunch of magnetic field lines twisting together. And they twist together. And when the orbs come together, they just snap. And when they snap, boom, plane disappears, goes somewhere else. That's how I imagine it in my mind. But the way he described it there, yeah, like somehow there are these invisible tendrils, right? These invisible tendrils that are connecting one place to another. And then something causes those tendrils to just, boom, come back together. Pretty incredible stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream tonight. Let's go through some donos. We got a bunch of donos in the chats. Let's start with Pilled. Hey, Matt. Hey, everybody in the Pilled chat. Hey, Unchained. Thank you for those cookies, man. Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you in the Rumble chat. America and Jag, you guys holding it down in there. Dubbums and T. Tizovich. Appreciate you guys. Now, in the YouTube chat, we got my All-Stars War Ranch LLC. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Chaotic Good. Chaotic Good's been on fire. Chaotic Good has been into the dirds for a long time as well. And War Ranch says Space Force is at least 50 years ahead of where the public is. Yeah, it's hard to even put into words like how far ahead they are. It's really just not going to let me change the size of this window. Huh? Yep. Okay. Because yeah, they might be 50, 100 years ahead. You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. So the orbs were not scanning the plane per se. They were measuring the mass. Exactly. They're measuring the mass of the plane. The mass of the plane is the only thing that matters, right? That's what matters. The mass of the plane is what matters, which is funny. That was one of the first things I realized. They must be scanning the plane to figure out what the mass of the plane is so they can figure out what it takes to make the plane teleport. And they can probably calculate that. They might even have had it pre-calculated, frankly. But they probably want to scan it in real time just for any small effects, right? Because every little bit matters. Is this just, it's not going to let me make this bigger, huh? There we go. There we go. Now I can see. Okay, DeepSeek is a way better tool than Grok. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to argue about which AI is better than which other AI, guys. War Ranch says, defense contractor Creed, admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. So what I love about the MH370 videos is it changes the game. It flips the whole game around. We finally have something that they cannot deny, that they can't say anything about, and they can't do anything about. You can just literally say whatever you want about Sierra Nevada Corporation because we know they're lying. We just know they're lying. Straight up, we know they're lying. Says, hey, Ashton, been following your work for a while in the past year. Can't wait you to get the credit you deserve. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't even really care so much about the credit. I just want humanity to have free energy and teleportation, which I know they're hiding from us. They are 100% hiding it, and they're also hiding fusion as well. So, you know, pick your poison on the thing that they're hiding. Scary part is teleportation is not even the craziest thing that they're hiding. They're hiding straight up free energy capability, wireless energy, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, I wasn't joking before. The moment this thing goes completely mainstream, I'm just going to disappear. Well, why be involved in this? Actually, maybe I shouldn't promise that because who knows? Who knows what my mindset will be like at that point. But we've already done like all the work, right? Like all the science streams are out there. Everything's already out there. So all people have to do is watch. At this point, we're just adding insult to injury. This is just insult to injury now. Like we already proved the videos are real. Now we're just proving exactly what the orbs are and who made them just for funsies. This is just to rub it in, frankly. Yep, thank you for that one. Oh, thank you very much. Oh boy, O'Leary TTU maybe. Keep up the good work, Ashton. Great point on the papers seeming more likely they are explaining something that they know instead of making a discovery. It is a good point, actually. So obvious now after you mention it, but it's not obvious until you see the videos. Without understanding the videos are real, it's not obvious. And that's, I think, what they actually underestimated. They were thinking that everybody was going to figure this out. They were terrified everyone was going to figure it out, and they were going to have to cover it up. And then 2010 rolls by, 2015, 2020, nobody's figuring it out. Like maybe China, some, you know, behind the scenes, but like we're so far ahead, they're just not even worried about it. We're so far ahead, they're not even worried about it. And so now I think that they have kind of changed their tune a little bit. But as you see, there's no way to reveal this without revealing all of it. The moment the thread starts to become undone, everything comes undone. People realize free energy is possible. GG. And yeah, it's just, you can tell when scientists are like, the weirdest thing is when scientists don't promote their work. When they don't promote their work, when they're like, I'm going to put this out here, and it doesn't really matter if people read it or they care, right? Somebody that like is discovering something new, like what I'm doing, what we're doing. We're looking for attention. We want there to be attention on it. We want people to realize that it's real. These people don't even seem to care. They're like, yeah, I just put that paper out there because I was like legally required to. I legally had to put the minimum amount of information out there so that when this conspiracy becomes undone, I have plausible deniability. I can say, no, I posted the papers. They were out there. You just ignored them. Because otherwise it's like literally going to be just straight up, go straight to the chopping block, right? Like you found physics out that could have changed the world and you hid it from the world. I don't think the world's going to see it. They don't think they're going to look at national security as a justified reason to hide free energy. That's my thought process. And they know that too. They know that too, guys. They know that even if they have all their T's crossed and their I's dotted, like Avril Hines made sure that when they zapped this plane that they had legal justification, right? That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything. The court of public opinion is going to decide what happens to the people that hid free energy. That's who's going to decide. Your laws are not going to protect you. They're not going to protect you when people find out that you have been hiding free energy from the world. So just keep that in mind. The society that we could have had if they just shared quantum fluctuations of your butthole with the rest of the world. Exactly. So eloquent. So eloquent. So well stated. I don't know how far behind we are, but my guess is we're at least 100 years behind because of this. The lost century. I thought the lost century, when he called it that, was like being absurd, but they might have had free energy figured out for over 100 years. Like, can you imagine they've been hiding free energy for over 100 years and building weapons based off of it for decades? I actually, like, guys, real talk. I hope I'm crazy. I hope that somehow these videos are fake. I hope this is the Truman Show, because otherwise, my God, man, how sick are some of these people? How sick? You find out free energy and you're like, nah, we're gonna keep that secret from the people. We're gonna make billions and keep it secret. Like, that's just beyond greed. Well beyond greed. DC, have you heard somebody noticed Lynn's company is using 4 orbs? Yeah, guys, you guys are reading way too much into it. Way too much into it. Now, maybe, okay, maybe. I saw there's like 4 circles. Oh, 4 circles. That means that he's orbs. I don't know. You want to go into that? Fine. Guys, you guys know I'm a hard science person. I love science. We just went through, 4 scientific papers tonight? 4? It might be a record for a live stream. I don't, remote viewing, 4 orb symbolism, that's recreational to me. That's recreational. I don't take it serious. It's neat. It's a neat coincidence, right? Show me perfect propulsion. That's what gets me hard. That's what gets me excited. That's what gets my rocks off. I want to see some straight up magic using normal physics. That's what I like. We're all different. We all have our kinks. Number 6 is the orb seen on a flight track flying towards MH911 the same? No, probably not, guys. My true opinion is that I do think planes flew into towers because we're looking at them on videos flying into towers. Now, was there some other conspiracy going on there? Maybe. I don't know. End of the day, what do you really want? You know, what do you want from the conspiracy? For me, you'd say, what do I want from MH370? You'd say the government's never going to admit what they did to MH370 because the liability is so huge, right? You would say that. And I would say, yeah, maybe, even if that's the case, which I would argue I'm going to get them to admit it. Even if that's the case, well, I'm still pushing because I want to get free energy, because they're hiding free energy in those videos. So even if you ignore the MH370 thing and you say, well, free energy is still bigger than that. In the 9/11 case, what are you trying to get them to do? You're trying to get them to admit the government's evil? Okay, we all know that. They're never going to admit that anyway. So what are you really trying to get them to admit? It just feels like hurt feelings, the 9/11 conspiracy stuff. Like you so desperately want it and need it to be a conspiracy that you need validation or something like that. Like, what are you actually trying to get out of it? Think about that for yourself for a second. Maybe it's better to spend your time on a conspiracy in which there's some positive outcome that can come from it, other than just you feeling vindicated because you were right. You know, just a thought. For me, MH370 is not about me feeling vindicated. I already am vindicated. I've known the videos are real. That's why nothing really bounces off me. For me, the real win isn't about my life. It's about humanity getting warp drives, teleportation technology, and free energy technology. That's just me being honest with you guys. You can at me later on and hate on me if you want. That's fine. But there you go. That's the truth. Ann McPherson, thank you for that donation. Appreciate you. Number 6. Oh, wait, I already did that one. Am I getting repeats? What's going on here? Oh, thank you for the double donation. Hi, Ashton. Love today's live stream. Question regarding the Chinese satellite image. Do you know if anyone tried to match the clouds? I tried to match the clouds to the video from the Chinese satellite image, even recently. And they're definitely both cumulus clouds. But without the angle, it's pretty much impossible. I came really, really close to like matching it, but because I even used the unwrapped version of the drone, the Gorgon Stare video, and there's just a big missing section. If there was this one section that wasn't there, like if we had the original whammy, I guarantee you we could match those clouds to the original whammy, because those Chinese satellite images have to be of MH370. That was definitely China saying, this is what we saw, what you did. Yeah. Thank you for that donation again. Ryan, since this is all reality now, what's left in science fiction that we have to look forward to? Good question. So when I was at Contact in the Desert, I was hanging out with my buddy Mike, and we watched Pantheon. I told you guys to watch Pantheon. Nobody watched it because it's a cartoon, but you should have watched it. Mike was like, I didn't watch it because it was a cartoon, but then I started watching it, and he's like, whoa, people start uploading themselves to the cloud, and it starts to get into the implications of like how quickly that happens and how quickly we go from biological beings to, being, basically AI, like computer, not inorganic beings. To me, that's the big, where does this all go? For me, the real just hard to wrap my brain around is, doesn't this all just mean that everything's a simulation? That we're in a simulation and we can make other simulations, and that life and consciousness might have a big, dark answer to it? I don't know. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to be the one to expose those questions, but I definitely look forward to finding out the very smart people who do find the answers to those questions. And I think the MH370 videos at least open the door to us having a better idea of what those questions are. The reality is, take it or leave it, aliens is a conspiracy for stupid people. It's not because you're stupid if you believe aliens are real. No, of course not. Aliens are, of course, real. An octopus is an alien to me. There are billions, if not, infinite planets out there. There's aliens on some planets. There's life on other planets, guaranteed. Aliens is a stupid conspiracy because, duh, aliens are out there. It just doesn't actually have any real significant impact to our lives. If aliens has a big significance to your life, then your life's probably pretty boring. What will really change everything is that they're hiding free energy from us. And they've probably been hiding it from us for a very, very long time, which means they've been hiding physics from us. If you think hiding aliens from us is a big deal, they've been hiding science. They've been hiding a view of the universe from us. You have to think beyond aliens. This gets much, much bigger than aliens. And spoiler alert, pretty sure the aliens are going to end up being robots. So we're all going to be a little disappointed, I think. Zap says, guys, we're doing our spicy takes at the end tonight. Zap says, thank you, Ashton. Fantastic. Or what type of platform? Oh, wait, I already did. Oh, wait, no, is this right? What type of platform is sending the orbs up and receiving them? So this is one of the most common questions I get, which is where are the orbs coming from? The answer is they could be coming from anything. Probably some kind of plasma cannon that's shooting like a small device out. And the device, once the magnetic fields turn on the device, boom, plasma field. And then the laser shooting forward, and they can use the propellant as well. So this thing has multiple ways to propel itself. When the laser's not active, it's going to be in different mode. So one of the modes, it can just use standard propellant mode from its fusion reactor. Another mode is it can use the laser to propel itself forward as well. So yeah, the orbs could be getting deployed from a satellite, from a boat, from a plane, from a submarine. I think these things can operate underwater as well, which explains the whole transmedium UFO thing. Oh, there we go. We needed to solve transmedium UFOs. Oh, well, the orbs can probably just go underwater as well. I'm actually not sure they can go into outer space, because if they need air to run their fuel, then there's not going to be a lot of air there. But on the other side, there's also less inertia in space as well. So they might not even need as much fuel in outer space. So there's still a lot more to come in terms of what are the implications of this. Remember, we're looking at technology from 2014. It's 11-year-old technology that we're looking at in the videos. So you have to keep in mind, they've probably even gotten crazier now. My Japanese friend says, real goal is humanity to reach the true potentials of mastering multidimensional, multiverse physics with consciousness being the likes of Doctor Strange. Maybe. Man, I really hope we're not going to become like a Marvel movie. I'm actually rooting against multiple universes, guys. I think, and John Archibald Wheeler and Richard Feynman agreed that the universe, nature is going to prevent retrocausality. It's going to prevent multiple universes, or we just live in a multiverse. One of the two. I think we're going to find out which within our lifetimes. In fact, if we knew where the plane showed up, if we had videos of the plane appearing on the other side, like imagine the plane came out and it was yellow. Like the plane's just yellow. Be like, oh, okay, multiverses obviously exist. The plane obviously went to a multiverse and came back yellow. We got a bizarro version of the plane, right? That would be proof that multiverses exist. Alternatively, the plane comes out exactly the same as it did before, and we can say probably not multiverses, but who knows? And then lastly, Duck Vision. I'm still hoping to see the Shield tech come out. The Shield tech? Is that like Shield from the Marvel movie, probably? Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the live streams. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. Things have been kicking off, honestly, and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Potential interview next week on InfoWars. We got the Tim Pool thing coming up, and I'm hearing rumblings. Chat, in the background. You know, maybe big stuff coming. Who knows? We'll see, guys. Either way, we're not going away. Videos aren't going away. I hope you guys learned a little bit of science tonight, and we'll be back on Monday, guys. Peace out, everybody. Love y'all. Let's go with you know what? We're gonna go with this. We're gonna play us out with this tonight. This is your moment of Zen.
Fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself and be totally unafraid to challenge entrenched interests and failed power structures. Does that sound familiar, by the way? The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. Embrace that label. Being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label. Because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep